this is like my incredibly basic opinion, so I could be totally uninformed about this, but for the few, like, so, okay, so I'm going to be a little arrogant here. It seems like when people are decent at math, it seems like they develop little tricks inside of their head to shortcut things. So I went through life assuming that this was just common, that people always did this, that people have these little shortcuts in their head to make things easier, but apparently not everybody does this. What Common Core, or some of what Common Core seems to do, from what I've seen, is it just makes some of those tricks more transparent so that you can use them. So like, for instance, when I did this math here, 8 times 115, that's a really hard math problem to do in your head. 115, 115, 115. It's just very weird. The 5 makes it weird. Like, it's just a weird math problem.
By 100.
Yeah, but if you do... yeah, 8 times 100 is 800, 10 times 8 is 80, 5 times 8 is 40, so 40 and 80 is 120, and then 120 and 800 is 920. Like, that's a really easy thing that you can do in your head quickly and confidently. Yeah, and there's a lot of little tricks like that with addition, subtraction, and multiplication, and probably division as well. There's just a lot of little tricks like that you kind of develop, and I guess Common Core spells some of those out. But adults, when they see some of those tricks spelled out, get like really, really, really fucking ass pained. Like, I've seen like the railroad track thing. If you've ever seen that, some parents give a breakdown on how autistic the railroad track thing is, but that's how I've always thought of it. Like, you group things up to the closest hundreds. Like 394 minus like 112 would be like you would do like 300 minus 100, and then you do like 94 there's just like a bunch of like little things like that you would do. But yeah, the conventional method of doing the addition and subtraction with that shit where you like where you subtract something, like carry the 1 or whatever, that shit is impossible to do in your head. Or I can't do that shit in my head. If I think of like the number like 372 minus like 85, like trying to think of like 2 minus 5, carry the 1 from the 7 to make it a 6, and that's really, really difficult. That's not intuitive, or at least for me personally, I don't feel that in my head at all. I could never do that type of math in my head.
I would just make it a round number. And
yeah, you make it a round number, you remember what you added, and then you just kind of like throw it in there later.
That.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that kind of stuff is like really, really simple. You can do that math very quickly, very accurately in your head. And it seems like most of what I read from Common Core usually strives to teach that type of thinking. The whole point of order of operations is to eliminate ambiguity. Obviously, ambiguity shouldn't exist anyway. But these problems are used to test order of operations knowledge. I totally disagree, but okay.
Do you have a red dot?
No,
an extra
yeah,
or
I
anything?
do. Not an extra, though. How can you disagree with that? Because order of operations is supposed to test your ability to evaluate solutions in the correct order. It's not supposed to be ambiguously written. Those are two totally different things. For instance, if I say the quantity of 5 plus 5 times 7 or whatever, like, you're supposed to do the addition before you do the multiplication or whatever, right? Although you could use like algebra shit to do it, but it's just supposed to test your knowledge of the order of operation. You're not supposed to ambiguously write problems. It's just not. You're wrong here. Please stop. Oh. Hold on. I'm going to hide in the shack for a second. I don't know why we're talking about math with chat. I don't know why I do this.
This is the debate that we're going through
it's
today?
Not, it's not even a debate. Like, it's just there's no argument here. So the problem with this problem, okay, is that the divisor sign is just something that we don't see used in math often because it's an incredibly ambiguous sign. This doesn't test your knowledge on anything. It's a poorly written problem. The problem is that we don't know if we have 20 divided by 5 times, okay, the quantity of 2 times 2. This is one way to interpret the problem, but because of how everybody that I've known, now I only say this because I don't know what math looks like in other countries. Maybe in other countries you guys do it differently, is that this looks like it could be 20 divided by the quantity of 5 times the quantity of 2 times 2. Okay? It's ambiguously written because this divisor sign is never, ever, ever fucking, or at least I never saw it. I've never seen this. When you get to calculus, I've never seen the divisor sign used like this before. I would never, ever, ever, ever see that shit.
Sign?
The slash.
Oh. Yeah, you don't see that.
Because the way this would be spoken is it sounds like it's 20 divided by the quantity of 5 times the quantity of 2 times 2. That's what it sounds like. So this divisor sign is just really, really, really fucking bizarre. It's just really weird. It's a very, very, very ambiguously written problem. Yeah, Destiny Series. Oh, yeah, okay, whatever, dude. Good luck. Have fun. Let me know on your calc homework when you get teachers writing the fucking divisor sign when you get to calc in 3 fucking years, dog. Okay, dude.
Well, Destiny, in algebra, we still use the divisor sign all the time. Actually, Destiny, when you're doing integrals, you actually see that's actually really fucking common. Actually, Destiny, you see stuff like this. You see stuff like this all the time, Destiny.
Like, okay, dude.
This is so shittily written. I can't even imagine that anybody would accept a problem written like this from a fucking professor. If you had a problem written like this in any calc class, every fucking student would be raising their hand like, hey, professor, what the fuck did you mean by this? Because I never see this notation in anything ever, because it's the dumbest fucking possible way to write a division problem, but okay. It's not uncommon to use a slash when putting an equation in line. Okay, never mind. All right, never mind. Yeah, I'm not gonna argue it. The fact that so many people get it wrong is evidence that I'm 100% correct. Like, the fact that so many people can read it and get it wrong when there's an alternative to writing it that makes the answer incredibly obvious demonstrates that there is a problem with getting it wrong. Unless you're some kind of elitist little faggot fuck that enjoys writing things as ambiguously as possible to show how fucking huge your brain is. Like, it's so obviously written incorrectly that if a ton of people can look at it and evaluate it incorrectly, there's a problem in the notation. Like, this is why we have, like, standards for notation. It's why this types of stuff exists. I don't know how you could sit here and take a problem that so many people could be confused about, not because they don't know order of operations. People know generally how to do past math class, know that you're supposed to multiply and divide first. The fact that you can take something that's so ambiguously written and get so many people to get it incorrect is evidence that the notation is incredibly flawed. But okay. There is a specific niche occasion where that writing is acceptable. Yeah, sure, of course. Yeah, of course, you can find, like, niches where, like, there are times where this notation is I'm sure, like, there is a fucking assignment I did on Maple at some point where there's, like, because of formatting and shit, like, you might write all like that. But in general, you're not going to pair the divisor sign with other, like, quantitative multiplication where you're multiplying, like, quantities of things. It's just way too confusing. It's way too fucking stupid. Explain this, then? These divisor signs are not ambiguous. These all look better. This is just dividing a single thing. It's not giving you something where it looks like if you were looking at an algebra or a calc problem that it's multiplying the quantity of something. Different software will process this differently. Even different models of Texas Instruments graphing calculators will process this differently. In cases of ambiguity, be very careful of your parentheses and make your meaning clear. The general consensus among math people is that multiplication by juxtaposition, that is, multiplying by just putting things next to each other, rather than using the x sign, indicates that the juxtaposed values must be multiplied together before processing other operations. I just don't know what to say, because I can never tell if people are arguing in good faith or not. If I ever had this written to me on a problem where it was 20 divided by 5x, like, if you saw this, would you assume that this means 20 divided by 5, and then this quantity here multiplied by x? Would you ever assume that? Would you ever assume this ever? You would never make that assumption. 20 divided by 5x. You would never assume this. So why would you make a totally different assumption for 20 divided by 5, and then we'll let x equal 3 times 3, or 3 plus 3, or whatever, right? Why would you all of a sudden assume now that this means 20 divided by 5, and then times 3 plus 3? You would never make this assumption. With proper bed mass, you would? Yeah, so again, like, you're taking this order of operations thing to, like, some really, like, autistic, like, extreme, where it's just, you just shouldn't write things this way. At this point, why not just use parentheses to clear it up? Well, that's the whole thing of what I'm saying, is that it's a poorly written thing. So, like, if we take, people are saying they're saying the opposite. That's not true. So, if we were to say, look at this, 20 divided by 5 times the quantity of 2 times 2. If this was 20 divided by 5x, correct? If it was written this way, you would never assume that it's 20 divided by 5 and then multiplied by x. You would never assume this. You would never assume that 20 divided by 5x is equal to 20 divided by 5 multiplied by x over 1. You would never, ever, ever assume this. Your x is always in the denominator here, because you would, in your mind, because, and now again, I'm only speaking from an American perspective. Maybe in Russia or the Ukraine or in France or the United Kingdom, maybe you guys write your problems a little bit differently, but for American dictation, I've never ever seen somebody take a 5x here and assume that this means 20 divided by 5 times x over 1. I've never seen this in my entire life. So in this case, if we let x equal the quantity of 2 times 2, right, where we take 20 divided by 5, and we replace x with the quantity of 2 times 2, why would you ever assume it's just, again, this is just autism. It's just autism. This is just so, it's just so bizarrely written. It's just so bizarrely written. That's all I'm saying. That's my original point, that the way this problem is written is so ambiguously fucked that it's just retarded. Why do we care about this? Because retards like Spider Dip Fuck or whatever have like one assignment where like in a computer program, they might have to notate something a specific way. Okay, spiders. Spiders, answer this question. If you saw this written this way, if you saw this written out this way, would you assume that you do 20 divided by 5 and then you multiply it by x? Can you give me a yes or no answer to that? If you saw this written this way, would you assume that this means 20 divided by 5 and then that quantity, right? This quantity multiplied by the value of x? Would you assume that? You're correct with your entire last 4 minutes. I never argue that. Well, then what's the difference between replacing x here with an actual value? That if we do 20 divided by 5 and we let x represent anything else, why does this change then? So you're telling me that you would parse this differently than you would parse this? Why? Why are you assuming grouping that isn't explicitly there? Because that's how math works. Because nobody, okay, I'm sorry, in every calc class and in every class I ever took, I could be wrong, okay? I fully admit this. I've never seen this notation, okay? Maybe you saw this notation, okay? If your teachers wrote shit like this, then I'm totally fucking sorry, okay? If your teachers wrote something that looked like this frequently, 7x, and they wrote 7x like this, then I'm sorry. Maybe in your math classes this is what they did. I've never seen notation like this before though. I saw 5 parentheses x constantly in math class.
Eugenics? People think
5x is different than 5. Is it? Wait, so you're saying that this is treated completely differently than like this? So in all of your functions where you're substituting functions for other functions, I don't know, dude. Okay, never mind. I'm not sure. I don't care. I have no interest in this entire argument. I have no interest in any of this anymore. Never mind. I don't care. I thank the Lord. I had an easy education, I guess, and none of my teachers ever wrote shit that was like so autistically ambiguous that like even in this, I don't know what purplemath.com is, but even in here, the general consensus among math people is that multiplication by juxtaposition, that is multiplying by just putting things next to each other, like 5x, indicates that the juxtaposed values must be multiplied together before processing other operations. This is how I've always seen everything written about in my entire life, but...
Is this the new portal problem? MASTERB8.
Like, if I was working with, I only ever used Maple. I never used Wolfram Alpha. So if I was working with a program and I wanted to do this, if I wanted to write this out, I would never, ever, 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 ever enter this into anything that I ever worked with. I would never do this. What I would write is if this is how I intend for this to be interpreted, there would be an easy parenthesis here. Now we have the quantity of 20 divided by 5, and then that would be multiplied by 2 plus 2. And then this is completely unambiguous. It could never be written differently. We don't have any weird fucking autism order of operations bullshit. Like, this is what you would write. There would be no confusion here. Oh, okay. The quantity of 20 divided by 5 multiplied by the quantity of 2 plus 2. Not having adopted reverse Polish notation. Okay. There's clearly one answer to the top. So if this was 20 divided by 5x, you would assume that you're having 20 divided by 5 times x. 5 times x would be calculated, and then you do 20 divided by 5x. So if we let x equal any value, it would be 20 divided by 5. With the way that it's written, you could easily interpret it that way, that this is one term. 5 times the quantity of 2 times 2 is just 5x. Wait, there is actually something called the reverse Polish notation? Okay, we're done. Why are we talking about this? Put it in Excel, click. Oh, shit, dude. I would never enter that former thing in a software, in any type of software. Maybe there's some software that people use that I'm not familiar with, but like this is so ambiguous. Like it's so ambiguous. To sit here and look at this and say this is a well-written problem requires a special type of autism. It's the opposite. You wouldn't write it like that in real life, but it's so much easier to write like that on a computer. It's that hard to stick one extra parenthesis. I feel like I would get confused looking at my own work. I feel like I would lose my mind trying to parse that information. I feel like I would just get constantly befuddled. But maybe I'm not like the 190 IQ. Why not just make it easy with yourselves and just